how did you pivot from Bcom to product designing or UI/UX designing?
Yeah, people say I'm a UI/UX designer. It sounds like they're saying, "Hi, I'm a designer. My pronouns are UI/UX." See, at the end of the day, product design, UI/UX design doesn't matter.
Average salary difference between of a product designer in India than in Germany. Like the students who are from the tier 3 college, they don't have the confidence.
You're an engineer or you're a CA or you're a doctor, you're never going to have, your first goal is never going to be something big. But suddenly when it comes to product design, people's first goal is joining one of these FANG companies. And that is something that I don't get. It will happen by chance. It's not something that I went and I asked for. It was an opportunity that came, knocked on my doorstep. But it's not like they came and then they gave me the offer letter.
AI will be able to like take designer jobs.
Yeah.
The interview for Trade Republic, Apple and Unacademy. Was there any technique or any routine that you follow? If you're in a tier 3 college doing bachelors, Bcom or any other graduation and think that it's impossible for you to crack any MAANG companies, then this podcast is for you. Today we have Chethan, a self-taught designer who is currently working as a senior product designer at Trade Republic, and he has worked with big companies like Apple and Unacademy. Today we will discuss what's the secret ingredient and what's the right roadmap to crack any MAANG companies. So welcome Chethan to this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Super excited to talk about design once again.
So Chethan, please tell us your journey from Bcom. Like how did you pivot from Bcom to product designing or UI/UX designing?
Yeah, it's a super long story, but I will keep it as short as possible. Essentially, I was doing design in many different forms ever since I was a kid in school. So I used to go to my grandmother's house every weekend, and interestingly, my grandfather was into tech at that time. And so I naturally was curious about what he was doing every weekend, and he would install a lot of these softwares, and he would buy magazines of like, I think tech related magazines and stuff, and they would give 2 CDs with every month subscription. And so I was naturally interested in that. And so over a period of time, I learned about softwares and games and tech and internet and all these things at a very young age. And somehow I was very curious about tech. And then slowly I started doing design as a hobby, and I was just like playing around with softwares and things like that. At that time, Photoshop would give you like a trial version of Photoshop 2 and Photoshop 3 and things like that. So naturally, I was just curious and I was learning about all of these things. And then over a period of time, I realized that I like creating things. So I was doing like 3D animation and visual effects and short films with my friends and stuff like that. So I ended up realizing that this is something that I'm good at and I like, but never thought I could turn this into like a full-time passion. Becoming a designer was never a part of the plan, or even I mean, never did I know that this was even possible. So I essentially ended up taking Bcom and CA because that's actually what I wanted to do. And then over a period of time, I started seeing that there is something called product design. It was so new. Nobody even knew about it. Nobody heard about it. And I realized that, okay, I think I need to make this move into product design as soon as possible. And it makes more sense to leave CA, even though I was, very good at my job. But I felt that I think this makes more sense in the future, in terms of opportunities, in terms of working abroad, in terms of money, in terms of, having satisfaction of your career. And yeah, I did what I had to do to get into the profession, studied it a little bit, understood, spoke to a lot of designers, went to meetups. And then one day I just decided, okay, fine. I mean, I finished my CA exams and then I'm like, okay, I'm done with this part of my life. Let's start a brand new chapter of life. And then that's how I got into unacademy and it all started. Yeah.
Okay, so you're CA or you like?
Well, I didn't clear the final exams. So technically I'm not a CA, but I gave my final exams. So I've gone till the very end. So I think that's more than enough for me, I guess.
Okay. So Chethan, when we talk about product designing, and there is also UI/UX designing. So what's the difference between like product designing and UI/UX designing? Are they same or different?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, they are just terms. And I mean, this is a joke. I might offend some people here, but when people say I'm a UI/UX designer, it sounds like they're saying, "Hi, I'm a designer. My pronouns are UI/UX." That's how it sounds like for me. See, at the end of the day, product design, UX, UI, UX design doesn't matter. At the end of the day, your job is to design and build products. And you are supposed to start from the beginning and ship it to the market and then iterate on it and help the company grow. That's about it. It's a cycle that keeps repeating. It doesn't matter what your company calls you. It doesn't matter what you want to call yourself. There are still both terms, UI, UX and product design. I find the term UI, UX a bit cheap. I like the word product design. It sounds a little bit more posh, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. And there is no distinction between this is what product designers do, this is what UI, UX designers do. There is no differentiation at all. You could still be a product designer and not do the entire work and do half-assed work and, low quality work. But you could be a UI, UX designer and still ship great products, right? So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the term is.
So as you have worked in India and now you're working in Berlin, right? So what do you think the average salary difference between of a product designer in India than in Germany?
So if you just take salary and you take the euros and you multiply that with the exchange rate, obviously we make a lot more money, like a lot more money. But like today, with how many years of experience I have, if I go back to India and get a job, I will make more money in India because the standard of living here is quite high. A lot of your money goes into rent. You have your personal expenses, insurance. If you have a car, you have a bike, if you have a pet, it just keeps adding up, right? But in India, you don't have to spend so much for stuff like that. And so you have to choose what sort of life you want. If you want a better standard of living, you will save a little bit less. But in India, you will save more, but then you will not have a great standard of living, right? But again, if you're earning 40, 50 lakhs in India, you should be totally fine. You can have a really good standard of living. So you have to really choose what you want. If you want to make money, you should not come abroad. Come abroad for things other than money. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So is there any range, like if you can give a range of an average salary?
So this, as per the visa, for a company to sponsor you and get a visa, I think there's a limit of, 60,000 euros is what the company should offer you. So most likely your base salary will be 60,000 euros. Probably for a mid-level designer, I don't think they will really get somebody from India for a junior role. You should have some decent, good experience, at least in one or two decent companies for them to even consider you, because it's a lot expensive process for the company. The company is going to pay a lot of money to get you over here, they'll relocate you, your visa expenses. So you need to be actually worth it. So if you just, nobody's going to take a chance on you, right? You really have to prove yourself. So 60,000 is where you will start. That is the minimum, I guess, because that's what the visa rules say. And then depending on your seniority, it can just keep going higher. So yeah.
What about India?
Oh, India, you have salary starting from 3 lakhs, which is very, very low. And minimum goes up to, I've seen 15, 16 is what I've seen the minimum you would get. If you're a founding designer and stuff like that, obviously the company will pay you a little bit more. At least that's what I've heard. But I think like the general average, if you get into a startup, I don't know, maybe let's say 10 to 12 lakhs in a decent startup. That's what I would suggest. That's what I think is the rates. Yeah.
Okay. And talking about the degree, what's the importance of degree in this career? Like you have applied for Apple, unacademy, now you're working in Trade Republic. So degree matters or not?
Well, I don't have a degree, but I did all those things. And I'm not the only one to do this. I was only able to do this because I've seen other people do it. And so I learned how they did it. And then I implemented their strategies and their learnings into my life and my career. And I did it. They did it without a degree and so did I. So, and I am not the exception. I am the majority. The exceptions are the people who have a design degree.
Yeah, but I think the main problem, like I mentioned in the I mentioned in the intro also, like the students who are from the tier 3 college, they don't have the confidence to even think that, yes, I can crack a MAANG company or I can crack Apple interview or any other MNC company. So how did you gather this confidence, like being a self-taught designer and being from a tier 3 college, I can do this, I can crack interview or anything?
If let's say you like a particular sport, right? your first goal cannot be to participate in the Olympics. It's probably the 50th goal that you have to participate in the Olympics. And working for a FANG company is like, participating in the Olympics. So you need to win a shit ton of tournaments before you even, start preparing for the Olympics. Yes, you should have that goal from day one. That's fine. You can have it. But wanting to achieve that as your first goal in today's world is absolute foolishness, I would say. And that means you don't even understand this profession or how difficult this profession is, right? You would not think about that if you're an engineer or you're a CA or you're a doctor. You're never going to have, your first goal is never going to be something big. But suddenly when it comes to product design, people's first goal is joining one of these FANG companies. And that is something that I don't get. It was never even my goal. It was never my goal. Apple happened by chance. It's not something that I went and I asked for. It was an opportunity that came, knocked on my doorstep. But it's not like they came and then they gave me the offer letter. It took me a lot of time for me to convince them. It took me like around 8 months to actually get the offer letter from them. And they also weren't ready to hire. They were sort of just trying to maintain a relationship with me. And one day there was an opening by chance. There was a requirement for a designer. And then they realized, okay, we've been, talking to Chethan for 6 to 8 months now. Maybe this is a good opportunity to onboard him, right? And it was that 1% chance that I was, that I was working towards. It was really 1%. It's not like they came, they said, if you do these tasks, we'll give you the job. They didn't even talk to me with the intention of giving me a job. They were just like, we want to maintain a relationship with you. You seem like a smart guy. That's about it. And I was a kid. I had 1 year of experience at unacademy at that time when all of this happened, right? So my recommendation to people is forget this dream of FANG. It is not going to happen in today's world. It will happen to you a couple of years later. And you should slowly start, build that self-confidence first. How will you go, you can't go to the Olympics with zero preparation, zero self-confidence, zero accomplishments. It makes no sense, right? So, yeah.
And how did unacademy happen for you?
I think at that time, the head of design at unacademy was also making content. And so I was also making content. So I just reached out and I told him that, hey, I'm making content. And then he started seeing my work. And then I think we sort of became friends. And then there was this WhatsApp group that he had made and I joined that. And I think this was 2019. It's a long time ago. And then one day I just told him that, hey, I'm looking for a job. Is unacademy hiring? He said, yeah, just come over and, let's have an interview and a chat. And I just had basic rounds of interview. It was a very, very, very small team. I think we were maybe 4 designers at that time, 4 to 5 designers when I joined. And it was a very small office. Unacademy had a very bad design language and it's not where it was today. So I got to work at unacademy when it was completely rebranding itself and completely growing and really on that growth phase.
Okay. And what about Trade Republic?
So I was at Apple for 2 years. And after 1 year, I started realizing that this is a little slow for my style and pace of working. There's nothing bad about Apple. It's just that this is how big companies function. And some people like working like that. So I've seen designers who I have grown up with, who have been in these companies for 5 to 6 years. They like that type of lifestyle and that work culture and the perks and everything. Those are not my priorities. For me, I am wired different. And that's why I know a lot of people who work in these big companies. They also leave within 2 to 3 years because they want to start their own thing. They want to work in a startup. They want more ownership and things like that. These are things which are very difficult for you to get in a FANG company. And after 1 year, I realized that let me see what opportunities I have. I did look at options in India, but I felt if I have Apple on my resume, let me just see if I can get at least interviews abroad. If it doesn't happen, then I will join a company in India. And Berlin and Trade Republic is not something that I chose. I just went to Google and I said, what are the top 50 startups in Europe? And I just applied to all of them on LinkedIn. That's it. That's about it. Because I don't know what are the good startups, what are bad startups, how the culture is. I just said, what are the top 50 startups? There was a blog article of all the top 50 startups. I wanted fintech, just applied to the fintech companies, interviewed with a bunch of them. I ended up liking Trade Republic, the people, the interviewers. And then I felt like, okay, fine, this is, I joined Trade Republic at a point, when I had joined unacademy, and I liked the fact that I was one of those core designers. The company was just building new products and scaling. And I felt that Trade Republic also was at that exact point in time. And so I decided, okay, this is something that I've done before. I like it. So I don't mind doing it again. right? So that's how I made the choice.
Or
Yeah.
all the companies like unacademy, Apple, sort of all the things happened for you? You didn't like approach them or like applied for it?
Well, for Trade Republic, I did. For all the European, so when I was applying for companies outside, I obviously did an outreach. Even for Unacademy, I did the outreach, but it was a little bit easier because I already sort of half convinced the head of design that I'm a decent designer and I have potential and stuff like that. Apple came to me, but then it took me again 8 months to convince them. So at the end of the day, I got all of these opportunities, but it was essentially my skill set that made me convert this from an opportunity to something tangible, right? So yeah.
And like, what kind of benefits did you get from Apple as a product designer?
I mean, the office that we had at that time was pretty small. Now we have a much bigger office. Now they have a much bigger office. We don't have a much bigger office. But for us, I got all the Apple products for free to use for company purpose. So even though I didn't need it, they just gave me everything like a MacBook Watch, the latest iPhones that would come out, iPad, and pretty much everything. So I sort of got spoiled. And when I left the company, I had to buy all of these things all over again because they said you can't keep any of these. But I think one of the best things that I still remember is we were supposed to work on this project for I think 1 to 2 months. I don't remember how long, but yeah, I think it was around 1.5 months. And my house was very far away. It was almost close to the airport in Bangalore. And so it's impossible to go up and down every day in Bangalore traffic. So then I told them that, look, I can't come to office every day. And then they said, we really need you to come. Would you mind staying in a hotel? So they made me stay in like Marriott for like 1.5 months. So it was close by to office. So I was staying in a hotel for 1.5 months. And then, like everything is sponsored. Food, I would just order anytime I wanted. So yeah, that was like pretty much the best thing that happened at Apple. Yeah.
In recent, like AI is everywhere on the internet. Like I see every other video is on like AI will kill like designer jobs, tech jobs, these jobs, something like that. So what's your take on will AI will be able to like take designer jobs?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the way I look at it is I've come up with this simple formula to make people understand if AI is going to take away your job. And what I've realized is if you cannot do what AI can do, then you're in trouble. It's as simple as that. If you can already do what AI can do, then you're essentially growing at the same pace as AI, and you can use AI because you will know how to use AI because you already know to do what it does essentially, right? So let's take an example. Today, AI can generate amazing graphics and 3D models and icons and stuff like that. If you, as let's say a 3D designer, already know how to do something like that from scratch, then you will know how to use that to your full potential. But if you don't even know how to create those 3D icons, by the time you learn how to create those 3D icons yourself, AI is going to learn 100 more things, right? So it's so important that you have to already know what AI can do. Yes, at the end of the day, it can do things much faster than you. But that's not the point. The point is, can you use AI to make your life easier? And if AI is better than you in terms of output, then you're in trouble, right? And today, designers still have a lot of time. Engineers, copywriters, 3D artists, they are probably in trouble because AI has reached a certain stage, which is already giving really good outputs. But for product designers, even generating simple screens, AI is not doing a good job, no matter how much you try. So there is still time for designers. And at this point, I don't know how long it is going to take for an AI tool to really come and really do a decent job of, hashing out screens. So designers still have time to figure out the fundamentals, learn and reach that stage before AI comes into the picture. It might happen in 6 months. It might happen in 2 years. It might happen in 5 years. I don't know. But at this point, you still have time. So make use of it before it's too late. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And do you use any AI tools in your daily use? On a daily basis, or in Trade Republic, are you guys using any AI thing?
No, not yet. We use it for copy here and there, now and then a little bit, but it's so bare minimum. Because all designers, like, we know how to generate good sentences, and so we're really good at our own copywriting, and we understand how to communicate from a brand standpoint. So we just probably use AI for grammar checks and, shortening screens and making it from 3 lines to 2 lines. Very basic, useless things. But nothing for hardcore use cases is something that we have used. We will start investigating if Figma Make is something that we can use, because we like doing a lot of interactions and we have a lot of charts and a lot of complex stuff. So is that something that we can add to our workflow is something that we are still figuring out. We already have ways of doing things without AI, but will AI assist us, or will it make it even more complex for us to do what we want, is something we have to figure out. So at this point, we're not using, maybe the graphic design team is probably using it to generate assets and references and stuff like that. But as product design team, I don't think we're doing anything, to be honest.
So let's deep dive into complete roadmap. Like, what's the right roadmap to get into any MAANG company, or how to become what's the right roadmap to product designing?
You want the right roadmap, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the right roadmap is not something everybody will want to do. But at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, the first thing you need to do is unlearn all the nonsense that's there in your head. You need to remove all those things before you start designing. This reality check, this context building, this perception changing has to be fixed first. That, like, unlearning is something that you will do for a very large period of your career and life, and you need to have a habit of unlearning things and learning things. You will only unlearn when you learn something that will replace what you, like, some of your beliefs, right? And that's how you essentially unlearn, right? You can't unlearn and keep it empty. It'll be replaced by something. That's how you essentially unlearn and learn, right? So first, understand that this profession will not give you any results if you do things quickly. It is so important that you forget about jobs, you forget about portfolio, you forget about case studies, forget about that. First, enjoy what you're doing. Slowly start learning and building the fundamentals one at a time. And to do this, you need to have time. So you have to start very early, or if you're too late, you need to dedicate a huge chunk of your life and remove everything else from your life and focus on that. So if, let's say, for example, you're in your first year of college, right? Let's say engineering is 4 years, or, Bcom is 3 years, whatever. It's a good time to start learning, because at this point, you're not thinking about jobs or case studies or portfolio. You're just thinking, let me just learn and have fun and enjoy. Is this something that I even like, right? At the final year of engineering, when you have 6 months left, if you think, oh, okay, now I need to get a job, that is not going to happen. Because whether you start 6 months before your exams or your college is over, or from the first day of college, you need the exact same amount of time at the end of the day. So the first most important thing is try to figure out what style of learning works for you, what sort of design you like, where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses. Unlearn a lot of the things, because as a beginner, you're going to be fed in with lots of information, lots of right information and wrong information. For you to understand what is bullshit and what is not is a skill, and that will take time. You will understand what is right or wrong from practice. You will understand what is right or wrong from social media. You'll understand what is right or wrong from speaking to people, from interacting with people, from going to meetups. There is a lot of work, right? If engineering is 4 years, if becoming a doctor is 10 years, if becoming a CA is 6 years, product design is no different. It is as good as a profession as anything else. This first perception, if you set that in your stage of learning, everything else will fall into place. If I were to put it in steps, yes, you have to create case studies, you have to interview for companies, and you have to get a job. That is standard. That will happen at the end of the day. But there is so much work that you have to do before you actually start even thinking about case studies and stuff like that, right? You need to build the right circle of friends. You need to build a good environment where you can work, right? So I'm not sure if this is the answer you're looking for, but this is the more practical answer that I can give you. Like, I can say, okay, learn, colors first, learn typography first. You will learn all these things someday or the other. You could start with design systems, you could start with wireframes, you could start with information architecture. It doesn't matter what order you start in. At the end of the day, you have to finish all of the syllabus before you start applying to interviews. It is your choice. You can, just the way we study for exams, right? Some people start with chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. I will start with the most difficult chapter, and then I will come to the second most difficult chapter. and then I'll come to my favorite chapter, and then the first chapter. It is up to you how you want to study. But before you give the exam, you have to finish all of this. And this requires time, right? And as long as you trust that this is going to work, you should be fine. So, yeah.
So I think there is no right roadmap for you. Like if I say that, do these steps, like step 1, step 2, step 3, it may not work for you. So you have to find out what works for you and what's not working for you. So like, do you have a warning for new future designers? Like these kind of people should not like be entering into this career.
You don't have time to learn, don't come. That's all I would say. That's the most easiest way to say this. If you are willing to give in time and energy to learn, come. Or else don't. Figure out a profession that has more structure. Like engineering has more structure, CA has more structure. I don't know what are the other professions out there. They have more structure, right? And they have certifications and exams. So you just have to listen to what you are told. But in product design, it is so open-ended. You never know what's going to work, what's not going to work. As if you don't have time, don't come. That's all I would say.
Like we get all these kind of comments like UIUX is trending, product designing is trending. Should we go for this? Should we do this or not? I'm doing CA, I'm doing bachelors. So they're following this career because it's trending. So they need to understand that just do this career if you're really interested into this career. Do you have any like interview preparation tips? Like how did you prepare the interview for Trade Republic, Apple and unacademy? Was there any technique or any routine that you follow?
So there are two parts. There are two places where you can essentially screw up, if I were to use that word. The first one is you presenting your case studies and your portfolio and your deck, whatever you're explaining, what project you worked on. And the second is the whiteboarding, right? With whiteboarding, there is absolutely nothing you can do like last minute preparation, last minute revision. It doesn't work that way. That's a skill you should have built over a period of time, and that will reflect what happens over that in the whiteboarding round. That is one of the most challenging rounds because you are really put to the test and your ability to think, and that will showcase whether you're a good thinker or not. It doesn't matter what you did in the last week. It will tell you what you have been doing in the last 3 to 4 months. That is what it will represent, right? There's nothing you can do in 1 week before you go to an interview to do that. Like you can even do mock whiteboarding sessions, but it is not going to matter at the end of the day because your brain needs to automatically think like that. So thinking will not happen over 1 week. That habit builds over 3 to 4 months, right? So that is one part. So for that, there is no tips. You just have to make sure that you're solving a lot of problems. You're thinking smartly. You understand how to solve a problem in those 3 to 4 months. The other part, the easier one, is your portfolio round where you present your work. That is a little easier. There you can make quick changes and stuff like that. And because you're talking about something that you have worked on. Unlike in whiteboarding, it is a problem statement that is thrown at you and you have zero context. But when you're presenting your work, that is something that you did. So you have as much context as you have, right? So that makes life a little bit easier for you. So for unacademy, I only had some very boring personal projects. I don't think if I applied to unacademy today as a designer, those projects would work. But I had a lot of other things to show. Like I had a YouTube channel, I was making content, my fundamentals were good, my speaking skills were good. I was doing a lot of other things. So they were already convinced that, okay, this guy can learn and is capable of learning something if we give him a difficult task, right? So my portfolio round was a little bit pretty easy and straightforward, I would say. They didn't ask too many questions, but whiteboarding was where they really tested me. So I sat down in the room with the head of design and he gave me a problem statement of a problem that they were solving. And then he asked me, how would you solve this? And then I ended up giving the same solution that they were going to implement. And then I had an interview with the founder, and he basically asked me a couple of product questions, very high level product questions. But I think at the end of the day, for me, they hired me because I think they felt this man is really passionate about design and his fundamentals are strong. He might not have excellent design work, but his fundamentals are so strong that you throw him into anything, you give him some feedback, he will know how to come out of it. He'll know how to make use of it, right? So that was with unacademy. With Apple, I can't talk much about it because it's Apple is Apple. It's super secretive. So I will skip everything related to Apple. But applying to companies outside, that was very interesting because now they have a very high expectation from me. They are not looking for potential because they're like, okay, now you've worked at Apple, you have what, 3.5 years of experience. We don't care about potential. Are you good at what you do? Is what people are looking at. And which is what I also tell people, that after you have 3 years of experience, nobody's going to give you a chance. They're going to hire you to give you a job for you to get the job done. They don't care about whether you have potential or they can trust you or not. You need to be really good at what you do if you want to really come abroad, right? And I think that holds good for a lot of companies in India also. It was a long time since I'd done a whiteboarding round. So I did get rejected in a couple of whiteboarding rounds. And like I said, right, there's nothing you can do about it. What you do in your past few years will determine whether you will succeed in a whiteboarding round or not, right? But what happened was, because I did a lot of whiteboarding rounds, which I got rejected, I ended up learning from those. And I realized, okay, this is where I'm going wrong. This is where I can tweak, right? So these small things I was able to pick up. And because I'd already worked at Apple and unacademy had already solved a lot of problems, it was easy for me to pick up these small changes. And then in my Trade Republic interview, I was able to crack that. The portfolio round is pretty straightforward. Everybody wants different things. Everybody looks at different things. Everybody asks different questions. So you can never it's going to be totally unexpected. Some people care about visual design. Some people care about process. Some people care about metrics. So you can't convince everybody, right? And at the end of the day, your portfolio can only show one or two aspects of it, right? You can't convince everybody at the end of the day, but you still keep learning things here and there. And then because I went through so many interviews, I kept tweaking my case study every time I finished an interview, every time I got rejected, every time they passed me to the next round, what went wrong, what went right. But nothing crazy, to be honest. I think pretty standard stuff. Yeah.
Okay, that's all, Chethan. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you liked it. But it was really nice talking to you. And those who are watching this video, I wish you all the best for your career. And thank you so much, Chethan.
Thank you so much.